This episode is brought to you by regret and bad choices.
Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, really, this is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now.
All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And Mike, this time we didn't lie. We actually do have a guest on. But I'm going to read this into the record because we did it a few weeks ago, but this will set our guest up nicely, I think. And then we'll say hi to you, mystery guest, right? All right, so this was an email from our guest. Hello, Bill and Mike. Okay, so my name is Shirley. Let the airplane jokes begin. My name on Instagram is Shalila. Am I pronouncing that correct?
You are.
Okay, good. A very old nickname, and I think that's where Sheila came in. You can keep calling me Sheila for continuity, or you can call me Shirley, and I can't tell you to stop. So, side note, clearly I was the one calling her Sheila, whether it was in emails or messages. I don't know where it came from, but it is what it is. Here's what it is. So anyhow, you were on board to come in with us. You have the headphones. Actually need a mugshot. Yes, you gave us mugshots. But you said thank you. You were truly shocked and flattered, which I thought was nice. But here's the fun part. You signed off as just another sober, not mature fangirl. and we are going to talk about that. But first of all, Shirley, introduce yourself, at least who you are, where you're from. I don't know, whatever you want to talk about real quick.
Hello, I'm Shirley, and I am 5 years sober. 5 years and a couple months. That's important. I am from Detroit, born and raised. I still live in... Yeah. What, you didn't know I was from Detroit?
No, not at all. I know Mike didn't know either. Mike's a Detroit boy.
Yeah. I mean, I literally was born. I lived in Detroit until I was 12, and then, we moved to the suburbs. But I actually, he's laughing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so if that gives me some sort of cred, I don't know.
It does with me. I will quote Bob Seger. No, I won't. Go ahead.
But yeah, I've basically lived in the Tri-County, all around the Tri-County area of the Detroit metropolitan area all my life. Never left. I'm one of the few people of my generation and my family that stayed. Pretty much everybody else left. So moved out west, somewhere cool,
It's not cool. Go ahead.
Whatever. I don't know. I could say a million things. Kind of guide me. What do you want me to talk about?
No, that's okay.
Here?
It was mainly just a quick introduction and stuff like that, which is perfect. So we've learned things already. The fact that you're from Detroit. I mean, I didn't know that. I thought in the back of my head now that you mentioned that, I was thinking Michigan for some reason, but I had no idea where. And I know I would have mentioned it to you, Mike. I mean, in Detroit, I mean, my God, that's Mike's town, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 7 Mile and Hoover. Don't go there now.
Oh, so I was between 7 and 8 in Gratiot, so not too far away.
Jesus Christ, right by.
I know.
Okay, do you know where Dresden is?
Yes, I do.
That was where
Do you know where State Fair is? Because
that's
the street I lived in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right between. Yeah, well, definitely right between 7 Mile and 8 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Same hood.
Yes. Wow.
The 48205.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
When were you up in? You were just up in Detroit not too long ago, Mike, for the show,
Yeah,
right?
beginning of March. I
Yeah,
was
that's
up
what I
in
thought.
Hamtramck at Smalls.
Hamtown.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I
Cool.
don't go there anymore, but I used to hang out there a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, you saw a show, and then where'd you stay at the Red Roof?
Yeah. Something.
Hourly
Oh,
rates.
no. I was, where the hell was I? Allen Park Motor Lodge. Clearly
Oh,
I was
okay.
flying solo. Yes.
Okie dokie then.
Right.
All
It
right.
was a bed for one night. That's all I needed.
Did they still have phones in rooms? I mean, did it have like a lock on the phone? Did they have an hourly rate, anything like that?
It wasn't horrible. I've stayed in worse places.
There was a place that Dawn and I stayed. We actually went for it was Kathy's ex-husband Mark, his 30th birthday, I think. We stayed at this hotel because I mean they had a house full of people, and literally when you're checking in, and this was I mean not too far from where Kathy lives now. It was in it's north of Portage, going into Miller area, which is not great, outside of Gary and stuff like that. But right on the counter, it says, if you're in the room longer than 15 minutes, you're going to be billed the entire whatever it was, no refunds or something like that. So, and Dawn and I are relatively new. We're like within the first 6 months of dating, and I saw that, and she's kind of walking around the lobby. I'm getting things set, and I'm like, hey, come here. And I said, look at this, and she's like, so, and I'm like, we got to hurry up.
Jesus.
She's like, Jesus Christ, just fucking walked out. Yeah, but she still married me, but then divorced me too. On top of that, so. But anyhow, so obviously, outside of our control. I mean, Mike's work thing. What did you say, Mike? They said they're going to cut back, and now they're working like a hound, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So as obviously we've only had. I don't think we've ever had to reschedule somebody where we've had a rescheduled episode where we've had a guest coming on. But a couple of weeks later, glad that you could be on here, Shirley. We've got a lot of questions. We were chit chatting a little bit while you were restarting, Mike, and she's listened to every episode.
Good Lord.
So, I know. So I've got a few different things. First of all, we want to hear your story. That's number one. Obviously, we want to hear why the fuck you listen to us, and that goes back to all the episodes because that's
Okay.
curious. That's curious enough. But the main thing, and Mike and I already talked about this, what you said a long time ago, that one of us is less mature
Oh.
before we're done. We're all gonna be friends by the time we're done, so it's not gonna be that big of a deal. And believe me, it'd probably be an honor for either one of us, so you're not gonna offend anybody. All right.
But
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say you might just discover I'm the most immature of them all.
That's that's fine too. That's fine. we've had guests that we thought we had to be good with, and then we've had other guests who are like, fuck it, we don't have to be good with this person. So, but anyhow, so we should probably, I'm thinking, Mike, right, jump into the story. I'm sure she knows the deal, but why don't you give her the rundown again?
Right. Well, Jesus, if she's listened to every episode, right? Anyway. Right. Yeah. You know the deal then, right? We don't, a little bit of qualifying, whatever, drunk logs. We fucking hate them. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're interested in the solution. So it's all yours, Shirley. Lay it on us.
Hello. Okay. So, I had kind of a long history on the road to ruin. I was a Detroiter, born and raised in Detroit, Irish Catholic family.
Sounds like a Cleveland lead.
I know, right? And lots of people with alcohol problems in the family, and to be honest, it was so normalized. I mean. I can remember, my dad would always get like a case of Stroh's delivered. They would deliver it to the house. Okay. I don't know, but yeah. So, have a sip of beer or have some wine. I can remember being in restaurants and my dad would, say some kind of thing like, well, Jesus and all the disciples all drank wine at dinner. So why can't you have some too? So my first actual real drink where I got intoxicated, I was about 10 years old. and we were quote unquote up north. Now, you guys probably know what that means, but for anyone listening who doesn't live in Michigan, northern Michigan is, a resort area. And those of us who live here, we just say, we're going up north. Everybody knows what that means. So my family had a place up there, and I spent quite a bit of my childhood up there, especially summers, but we did go up there, in other seasons as well. And us kids were running around, and we found a bottle of something that tasted like candy. It was peppermint schnapps. And I'll always remember that night because I drank it. I don't know how much I had. I was just a kid. And I remember just feeling great. Like, wow, who knew, that there was something like this out there that could make you feel like your feet aren't touching the ground and laughing. And I just remember we were running around in the woods, and it was dark and it was crazy. And, I don't think I got sick, but the seed was planted, I feel, because it wasn't, too long after that when I got into middle school that we had moved by then from Detroit to the suburbs, and I didn't know anybody. So that was I feel like that was the easiest way to make friends, is just find the other kids that are kind of milling around out by the fence or whatever, in the back of the school or whatever. And
Right. The cool part.
yeah, so you're out there smoking, trying to look cool. I think it was Newports first of all, which are horrible, and then it was Marlboros, and all that. So smoked a lot of weed back then, all through middle school and into high school. But I think when I started my babysitting jobs, I had a friend. I won't reveal her name because, I don't want to get her pissed at me. But the two of us had a little operation going on of stealing wine from the people we babysat. And we would have a huge stash of it, and then we would just drink it, and let the chips fall where they may, I guess, right? I can remember a couple times the police getting involved because we were up to some crap, throwing things at a school building or whatever. And, but, this pattern that started when I was young and went all the way through to when I quit when I was 55 years old, I never really got in trouble, legally. I never seemed to really, I might get pulled over or taken into a principal's office or a counselor's office or whatnot. But in the end, it just always seemed like, well, maybe tone it down a little bit, young lady, or, I just, but by the time I got toward the end of high school and into college, I started a new chapter of blacking out. And that was scary, but it didn't stop me. I've had a lot of famous blackouts. Not that we're doing drunkalogs, but my worst one ever. And it's that picture that I sent you, Bill, where you thought it was 10 years ago, and it's 1986. I was on a ship in the Mediterranean. I was on vacation in Europe. And I had mixed together alcohol. Little did I know, in Spain, when you order a rum and coke, a Cuba Libre, whatever they call it, it's the opposite of a drink here. Here, it's a little bit of rum and then a bunch of coke. There, it was a whole bunch of rum and just enough coke to give it color.
Nice.
That's how I used to mix my drinks.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that, so I took I don't know. I took some kind of anti-seasickness pill and drank a bunch of these things. And the last thing I remember was running around somewhere by the lifeboats. Here we are on the Mediterranean. It's at night and it's beautiful, pitch black. And the next thing I know, I'm on a table in a dining room the next day.
Nice.
Yeah. And my luggage is stolen, and I can't find my friends, and nobody's speaking English, and I'm wandering around. trying to speak what little Spanish that I learned in high school. And it was a hot mess of a situation. It took me like a day and a half to 2 days to get better after that. I was really sick, and but I just kept going because, man, we were in Ibiza, which is like this really cool island, and it's nothing but bars. And anyway, so I think what it came down to with me is I was always chasing after that ultimate moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it had to be something cool and crazy. And so I just kept that up, through my 20s, through college. I got married, had a child. I didn't drink when I was pregnant, so God forbid, no. I would say the pregnancy, I have 2 children, so, like 2 pregnancies. I didn't, but as soon as I could again, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wait. I think it was like a week after giving birth. I'm like, open up that bottle of wine. And it never occurred to me, and here I had this baby, this small child, and I was putting back like a bottle of more wine a night and going to work. And I don't know. Nobody ever said anything to me. I never got in trouble, but I couldn't possibly have been living my best life, But the person I was married to was had an alcohol problem too, So it ultimately led to the demise of our marriage due to the fact that we just couldn't seem to get along anymore. We were fighting, and things were getting really dramatic and stupid, and then we just kind of both, or I decided, and I think he eventually agreed, that maybe it might be better for our child if we went our separate ways. So then I was a single mom, and I think I did okay during that time period. I was kind of scared of what might happen being a single mom if I got, I don't know, like in trouble drinking, or I don't know. There was that threat of like maybe custody or whatnot. So I tried to tone it down a bit. And then I met somebody who didn't drink at all, didn't do anything. And I thought, all right, this is who I need to be with. This is perfect. This person will make me a better person because I won't want to disappoint them. So that worked for a little while. But then, no, I think what would happen is I started having like a resentment,
Of course.
that you don't want to have fun the way I want to have fun. Like I want to like get crazy and stay out all night and do whatever, and it just put a wedge in our relationship. And I think too, with child number 2, I decided to leave the workplace. There were a lot of things that were going on. I was working nights. I used to be in the newspaper business, so at the end I was doing night copy desk work, which didn't get me home till like 2 a.m, and then I had to get up and take my daughter to school. So I wasn't getting any sleep. It was really kind of messed up. And then now there's a baby in the mix. I'm like, come on, So I tried being, a stay-at-home mom with freelance work mixed in the mix. And well, I'll tell you what I learned from that experience is that I am somebody that needs to be accountable, and having a job to go to every day is a good piece of accountability. That once that was taken away, it was only a matter of time before I found all the other moms in the neighborhood who, book club, we came up with all these names of ways to get together and drink, that sounded legitimate, but really were not. And at first it wasn't so bad, but, it started getting worse over time. I can remember, like, I lived in a town during this time period in my second marriage that was like a big party town, like bar district. Everything was either within walking distance or bike riding distance.
Right.
So I didn't have to worry about drinking and driving.
Right.
I was drinking and bike riding.
I've done that.
Oh, I know. And I remember one time it was like I couldn't even do it. I was trying to ride my bike and I couldn't even do it. I had to like walk it. I had to walk my bike home. But I'm not like exactly a spring chicken at this point. I'm like maybe early, I'm in my 40s now.
Right.
And my husband's, finding me out cold on the bathroom floor. Like, what the fuck is going on? I thought you were at book club. What book were you reading?
Yeah, well, I was. So real quick question with that whole thing. So I had never heard the term, and I know that Mike and I talked about this on an episode because I heard it on Instagram or another podcast episode, I don't know, a couple of years ago when we first started doing this. I had never heard of the whole mommy wine culture thing that they talk about. So I didn't know if that was, people on the other side of it, on the sober side of it, called the mommy wine culture, or if it is okay. So it is it's a thing that while you're into it, that's kind of like your club. If we're in the mommy wine culture type of thing, right? I mean, you guys know what you're doing, and that's what it's called.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone officially called it that, but that's basically what it is because it was a lot of other women who were deeply entrenched in doing the domestic stuff, and most of us had left the workplace or were just doing side gigs. And you needed, like, if you were going to put 100% in all day doing everything for everyone else, it was really nice. Like, I called it crawling to 4 o'clock. I tell you, some days it was like I could not wait for it to be 4 o'clock because then I could do whatever, drink some wine. It wasn't always wine. Vodka was a big part of it too, and then, the next thing you know, everything else gets introduced into the mix. All of a sudden it's like, I hadn't smoked marijuana, whatever the hell they call it these days, since I was I think when I started college, I kind of stopped doing that. But the stuff that's out there now, oh my God, no. Just so, and then edibles were big too. So I remember being at a party and somebody had a plate of cookies on the table and I thought they were regular cookies. So, I'm eating them. And then someone went, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" That was a bad night.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're getting high is what you're doing.
I was already drinking, and then I'm eating these cookies thinking they're like regular Toll House cookies. I'm like, you can't just put that out on the table without some kind of label. But then I got into all that, before it was legal. Then it was like this whole thing. You got to hook up with this person, and we were buying the cookies and the this and the that. I don't know. Well, anyway, moving right along. So, I mean, that really what I'm trying to say is, I started young. I went through all my school years and a marriage and a divorce. And then I had my second marriage and then that imploded. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me because at that point, some things were starting to be said and posted on Facebook about me. Saying like, some people are more interested in partying than doing anything responsible. And I would just get really mad. Like, how dare you? There is nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I'm just having fun, but fast forward a few years. So second marriage ends and I've got to go back to work. And so I do that. But at the same time, my drinking just really escalated during that time period. I'm sure some of it had to do with some of the people I was hanging out with at the time. They weren't exactly the best choice for me, but I think at that point in my life, I was just like, wow, you like to drink the way I do. So this feels comfortable. I mean, I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, let's say you're going somewhere, whatever. It doesn't even matter what it is. Let's say it could be shopping. It could be a movie. It could be going to someone's house. And you're like, you want to have a little something before before we get there. And you're like, yes. Oh my God, I love you. Like, thank you for asking, so, but things really started going down the tubes, I would say, because I ended up losing that job. And that was like the worst thing that could possibly have happened to me. I was going into work hungover every day and probably not functioning. I mean, I was a new employee, and I'm sure they were watching me like a hawk. And I had a whole long career doing something different for many years, so I was overly confident, probably. But I was doing something I'd never done before, and I should have had a little bit more humility. And I think that ultimately led to my demise. So they let me go before I could collect unemployment.
Of course.
Yeah, well, here I am now. I have a mortgage I can't pay. And, so things got really scary. And long story short, I ended up losing my house and having to put pretty much everything I own, except for a few essentials, to the curb. And I lived in this house for 16 years. So that was pretty humiliating,
Right.
to have to do that and have my neighbors and everybody see this. And I couldn't find anywhere to live. That was the other part of it. Some things had happened in my second marriage that led to some pretty big financial problems. We had the IRS after us, which was horrible.
Right.
And if that ever happens to you, if one day you go to the bank to get some money out and you find out your account is empty, it's because the IRS, they call it scraping. They scraped your account.
Yeah, they don't play it. I mentioned that on here before. My dad
Yeah.
was a skilled, I short of calling him a criminal. He knew what he was doing when it came to, chasing around money and this, that, and the other thing. But he told me I don't think I was more than 15 or 16 years old. He goes, "You can fuck anyone in the world, but don't fuck with the IRS."
Oh no.
And I mean, I had, when I went through my first divorce, my ex-wife, after we split, she filed and claimed our daughter, and I filed and claimed our daughter. So we ended up with this like $3,000 to $4,000 tax bill. I got that in the divorce, And then there was one other time when I forget when when I came out to Cleveland, Mike, when I got sober, I claimed unemployment. Like 2 weeks longer than I should have, and they hit me up, and I mean they just took my money out of the refund, but they don't play, they don't play at all. It took me probably 4 years to pay back that $5,000 or whatever it was, and they worked with me, but they don't play.
So it was kind of this whole situation where I lost my house. I lost, I was out of work. I was having a heck of a time finding a job. I was partying like crazy. I was hanging around with kind of a bad person, somebody that did not have my best interests, let's say. And then I had to kind of put my tail between my legs. I literally remember the night that I was sitting in my garage, cigarette in one hand, drink in the other, going through my phone, texting and calling everyone I know, going, "Hey, can I live in your basement for a couple weeks?" And the answer everyone gave me was no.
No.
And thankfully, one of my relatives, who is also in the program, said, "I'll give you 3 months." So I moved in there with my young child, my young daughter. One of the most humiliating experiences, to be a grown adult, having your own house and everything. And then all of a sudden you're like living in a room, and I had to put what I had left of my possessions in storage. And 3 months later, I hadn't made much progress in finding a place, and end up moving in with this guy. We both just decided we'd had a relationship, but had broken up, realizing, it wasn't the best for both of us, but got back together because we thought, hey, we can share rent.
Right.
So that's kind of what it was for those last 4 years, was kind of a, shared living situation that was a mutually assured destruction. Is that the right way you say that?
That
I don't
sounds
know.
right.
Yeah,
It
so
works. It works.
that's basically what ended up happening. So I'll try to sum up those 4 years was a big circle of the drain of both of us just getting worse and worse and worse into our drinking. Um, I started making really horrible choices, like going out drinking and leaving my child home alone, things like that. Um, so when I got to, well, a couple things happened is that I would say the last year before I quit, I was starting to feel extremely miserable. I kind of would just sit down sometimes and say to myself, I'm living in a nightmare. It felt like a nightmare. I wasn't getting along with the person I was sharing a house with. There was chaos all the time. The police started showing up. I ended up having to have my daughter go live with her father full time because it just, it wasn't safe. Um, and I had gone to my doctor because I felt like I needed some kind of help. And I've been going to the same doctor for a long time. And he'd been giving me Xanax. So I went to him and I was like, hey, can I have some more Xanax? And things are getting really rough. And he looked at me and he's like, no. He goes, but I'll tell you what. And he took out his pad and he wrote on it and he goes, I want you to go see this doctor and you go ask that doctor for some Xanax. So right away I figured out where this doctor's office was.
Sure.
And I show up there and I'm sitting in the lobby and I look at the sign on the wall and it says addiction therapist. You guys, I was so pissed. I was like, that bitch, that jerk. I was so mad I almost walked out. But let me tell you, I went in and I actually saw this person a few times. And what happened is I had to stop seeing her because of the pandemic. But, she actually was very key in me quitting. And I didn't even say at the time that I was going to quit forever. I just said I'm going to quit for now. Because I told her kind of what was going on in my life, that I was in this really bad situation. I wasn't even parenting my children anymore. I was living in this dangerous, chaotic environment. And I hate myself. When I walk down the street, I just wish a hole would open up in the earth that would just swallow me because that would just take care of everything, right? So she said a couple things to me, that really opened up my eyes. She said one of the things was something like, you have violated a sacred circle of trust with your children. And I had never heard that before. But it like stopped me in my tracks. She's like, you allow people in that should never have been in that space.
Right.
And you chose other things over your children. And you are like a slave to them. And you need to get out of that. So she gave me like a step-by-step plan. I was scared to death, but I said, okay, I will try. And I think I went like a week and I was like, I can do this. But then the first time I went out with a work event and someone said, oh, come on, have a drink. I gave in.
Right.
And I was really, really angry with myself. So then I decided after that, you know what, I guess I just can't go out right now. I've got to stop socializing because that's really the only, in the past when I've had to stop things, like let's say when I found out I was pregnant and all that, I would just isolate myself. I would stop socializing because it was too hard to be around other people doing these things when I couldn't.
Right.
I had too many internal battles with myself and I was miserable. I didn't know how to have fun. So this is where the pandemic comes in because this therapist told me, she said, you need a game plan to get out of your situation and reestablish your life with your children. But one of the things you're going to have to do is be sober. You've got to have a clear head. You cannot do this if you're intoxicated.
Right.
So I did it by stealth because by this time, a lot of people were home. They weren't going out anymore to work, right? But I was one of the lucky ones. I got to go to work every day. So I was considered no, I was really grateful for that. I was considered like an essential employee. Actually, it seems silly now, stupid, but at the time we were given a letter to
Yeah,
carry.
I
that
had
had
one.
the governor's signature on it.
Yep.
So I had it. Nobody ever asked for it, but
No.
it was like
It's nice to have.
yeah. But I was so glad that I could get up every day and go sit in an office all by myself because that kept me out of trouble.
Right.
And then I would come home and I would go walking, and then I would hide. I literally had to hide, like in the basement or upstairs, and quietly, secretly plan my escape. And the place I'm living in now is one of the only places I could find because during the pandemic, you couldn't look at a place in person.
All right.
I work in the real estate adjacent business, and everything was done through videos, and nobody was setting foot inside of homes or apartments. And I found a place that I liked, but I'm like, I am not signing a lease on a place that I can't physically stand in.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, how do I know it's not like a black mold or cockroaches or an insane person living underneath me? Or you know what I mean? So I found this place and they let me come look at it, and it was very reasonably priced because I think, they had a lot of vacancies, right? They wanted
Right.
people in. So I looked at it as a sign. So as soon as I was able to, I moved out. Um, People ask me how I did it, and I think not having anywhere to go, not having to be around people helped. And then on the weekends or whenever I could, I went out and I would do these big, huge day hikes. I would just go out in the woods by myself. And it got really, like, it got to the point where if I couldn't do it, like if it was raining or the weather's bad, I'd get really bummed out. Like became like this huge therapeutic thing for me. And so yeah, Bill, you do this all the time, so
Right.
But I mean, and I would always do it by myself. Someone would go, "Oh, I want to come with you," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 nope," because it was kind of like a silent meditation in a way.
Mhm.
Um, so because of the pandemic, obviously, I didn't know where to find meetings. I was aware of AA. I had been actually, when I was younger, taken to some meetings by people, and it didn't resonate with me at the time. I didn't
Right.
like the way the ladies that are my age now, but back
Sure.
then it would be like, "Listen here, you little whippersnapper,
Right.
you need to admit you're an alcoholic," and I'd be like, "Fuck you,"
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't know me, that kind of thing. So,
I'm special. I'm unique.
but I couldn't find any meetings. I would like look online, and then I would go show up at this church, and there would be like no one around anywhere, and I'd be wandering around. If the door was open and I went in, there'd be like someone in there going, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "I'm looking for a day meeting," and they're like, "Have you read the news?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't say that they're canceled." So anyway, I got really frustrated with that, and I was too scared to like ask anybody that I knew was sober. I was just too embarrassed. Um, so between the hiking and I did have some books that I read. I was reading Recovery Dharma, which is a Buddhist recovery program.
Right.
I actually I forgot to mention this before when I was talking about times being sober. In the 2000s, like around 2008, 2009, I started going to this Zen temple to learn how to meditate. And I found it very helpful. And I was really trying to use it to help with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked for a while. And I really got pretty far into the program, really liked it a lot. But I found in the end that there was no accountability. Like I realized that there wasn't anybody kind of like keeping track of what I was actually doing. Like I could go out and just have a bender and nobody would care.
Right.
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 So I used the tools I learned from that experience during this time of trying to get sober on my own. And I made it like almost 2 years. But I will say this, they were not good 2 years.
No.
No, they weren't, because if I wasn't crying, I was raging.
Right.
Right.
I was getting in fights with people in Target. You know what I mean? Like, I was a miserable person.
Yeah.
And I wasn't happy. I had no joy in my life. My kids hated me. And so finally, I went back to that very same relative who had taken me in a few years before and mentioned to her, hey, I kind of stopped drinking for a while, and I'm thinking maybe you could help me find an AA meeting. So she's like, oh my God, I've got just a meeting for you. And you know what? It's my home group.
Right.
Nice.
It's my home group. Now, I went there. It had just started opening up again. This was like the end of 2021. And there would be like 3 or 4 of us in there with masks on. But I started going to that. I went to a couple other ones. And to this day, 3 years later, that is still my go-to meeting. I've had 2 of my sponsors from that meeting. My closest friends are at that meeting. The people I would, trust with anything from that meeting. It turned my life around. And so personally, for me, that 12-step program really worked. It really did. And I think I was lucky that I had 2 really good sponsors who didn't take any shit from me. I'm like, don't coddle me.
Right.
Right.
Do not coddle me. If you think I'm full of shit, tell me.
Right.
And they did.
Right.
I made my amends. That was painful. I had to sit down with your ex-husband and his wife. That's not easy. But I decided, the only way for me to move forward with my life and have any meaning was to own my wrongs.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And to not repeat them. I have in my big book, in my 12 and 12, I have little notes and drawings that my kids made when they were, those things they make when they're like in kindergarten or preschool. It's like, I love you, mommy or daddy or whatever. And it's like a little stick person or something and a heart. So I found some of those and I have taped them in the front of my book.
Nice.
And I do that. So every time that I open those books up or I'm at a meeting, I'm right away reminded of why I cannot ever drink again or do any, to me, sober is sober. I don't do anything.
Right.
Nothing, which, so now today my recovery program includes, going to at least, I try to go to 2 meetings a week. I'm the GSR right now, if you know what that means. You know what that means? Yeah. Okay. So I'm involved on that, like district level and
service work.
Yeah. Lots of service work. Podcasts. No, really. So that's kind of like, if you're asking how that happened, it happened because I tried to find a podcast to listen to, because what I do is every morning when I'm getting ready for work, I listen to a podcast. And then if I'm not done with it by the time it's time to drive, then I listen to it in my car. And it just became a habit. Well, there's a lot of them out there, but not a lot I like.
Right.
And so I was listening to some of them and they just didn't, it was just like, okay, some of these people are like, well, maybe you only have 2 drinks or maybe you only drink. You know what I'm talking about? Like sort of like control. I'm like, that. Okay, this is not for me.
Right.
And then, and there's some I still listen to that I started listening to in the beginning and I still listen to, but I think that's how I found you guys, is that it came up, and I'm not sure if it came up on Instagram or if it came up on Spotify. You know how they give suggestions?
Right.
So anyway, I see this. It says sober, not mature, and I'm like, what?
Hey, real quick here. Let's. I think this is a good breaking point. First of all, the thing that, and I think I got it right. January, is it 9th of
January 9.
Okay, so
Yeah.
January 9th of 2020 is your sobriety date. I just
Yeah.
wanted to get that out because I thought we
Yeah.
had talked about it, but I couldn't remember if you mentioned it. But I
Yeah.
think this is, what do you think, Mike? Good time for a break, and then we can get into why she listens to this shit.
Right, exactly. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to continue listening right after these words from our sponsors.
Hey everyone, it is your friends at Sober Not Mature. And we're going to keep this really simple. We have two websites that we'd like you to visit. One is our podcast website, which is SoberNotMature.com. The other one is our store website, which is SoberNotMatureShop.com. For everything associated with our podcast, you're going to want to go to SoberNotMature.com. If you want to buy some merchandise from our podcast, all of our Sober Not Mature merchandise is on our store website, which is SoberNotMatureShop.com. Visit those today, and we will get back to what we were talking about. All right, everyone, welcome back. See, does that seem weird now, Shirley, that you see how we do our breaks?
Yeah. I thought I could go make a sandwich or something. Damn it!
No, it's literally all it is. So we've said this before. We tell people to be quiet, and it's 6 or 7 seconds, just so I can I just need some place to split the episode. That's the only thing we cut in here is that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, whether it was, I don't know. So we got started on Instagram. Did we get on Instagram, Mike? I think it was right when we
The hell are you
started.
asking me for? I don't know. I don't do any of that shit.
No, I'm just trying to remember. I think that we started the podcast in February of 22, and I think I got on Instagram under my own name, whatever that, I can't remember what it was. Oh, Is It That Simple is what I set up just to get on there personally.
Right.
And then we decided on the podcast. I got that set, and I think it was, we did the podcast Instagram, Facebook thing, whatever, shortly after that. So,
All right.
I mean, it could have been either one. I mean, we started recording through what was Anchor and is now Spotify for creators or whatever the fuck they call it now. But it's through Spotify, so it could have easily popped up on Spotify or Instagram. But it's funny because, I mean, for the longest time you could search, and the fact that sober is literally in our name.
Yeah.
And when you search for sober podcast, it wasn't coming up because, I mean, we were new. We're still small, but we come up in some searches here and there. So anyhow, so you're searching for sober podcast and you run across this thing.
I wasn't even searching.
Oh, you weren't? It came up as
it just came up. It just popped up.
Yeah, really, it just fucking poked you.
Well, okay, so you know how, like, let's say you're on Instagram and you see something that you don't subscribe to, but it looks weird, so you click on it, and it's something kind of vile,
right?
And then all of a sudden, after that, you're getting like a whole. It's like being just forced on you. And it's like, oh my God, no. I don't want this. No, stop sending me this stuff. Oh my God, dear Lord. I'm not going to say anything more. But it was kind of like that, though, in the sense that I had been following some and just trying things out. And then I saw your logo and I was like, oh my God, I got to check that out. That sounds totally up my alley. In fact, when I told my oldest daughter that I was going to be on this podcast, and she goes, what's the name of it? And I said, it's called Sober Not Mature. And she goes, well, that tracks.
How old's your daughter?
She's 31.
Yeah, that's nice. That sounds like my kids. They're like, yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, I was like, that just made me laugh so hard. I'm like, So anyway, I decided to listen to an episode. I'm sorry to say I don't remember the episode.
You don't have to be sorry. We're probably sorry that you listened to the begin.
Right.
To begin with.
Well, no, but seriously, no. All joking aside, whatever episode it was, it captured my attention. I think I liked your banter. I liked that you guys did a reading. And, you joke around, but you also get down to the nitty gritty of what needs to be said. And I appreciate it.
Right.
And I really started listening. And then I backtracked whatever episode I started with. Then I backtracked to your beginning. So I heard both of your stories. And then you had like your friends on and other people like that. And,
right.
and guests and so forth. But I think just the essence of what you guys get at all the time, I really like, because, between the make your corner of the world a better place to make your bed every day to fuck off, all of it. But I mean, think about it. It's like for me, what keeps me sober every day is having a routine,
Mhm.
having respect for my personal space and for other people's space.
Mhm.
And, because I get up in the morning and I have certain things I read every day, and I listen to a podcast, and I go to work, and if I need to, I do like a 10 step kind of,
Mhm.
inventory, and, what I need to do to fix what I messed up.
Right.
And then most nights I come home and I do a little bit of journaling, kind of like going over, what's bothering me, what's
Right.
bothering me with this day, what did I do that I could have done better, and am I behaving like a person who's in recovery, or am I behaving like a dry drunk? So
Mhm.
it's like being self-aware.
Yeah.
And I guess I appreciate that your podcast is a mix. It's not all serious.
Mhm.
It's not, and it's not all like wacky, crazy, nutty all the time.
Right.
It's
Well, I
not
mean,
like the Jim Carrey show, or
right, exactly. Well, I
It's
mean,
like,
it's balance. That's what this is all about, is finding our
Yeah.
balance. That's what we have to do. And, still working on it. But yeah, we have to, yes, life is not all dire, and it's not all serious, and it's not all stupid and wacky either. It's, some of it's serious, not generally the parts I don't like all that much, but I understand that I have to do those things.
Yeah, the only thing that we really, I mean, if you look at it, the structured part of the podcast. Now, the reading was done because, however, I still remember how it came up, Mike. But I mean, when you
Right.
mentioned, you're like, that'd be great to do because, and it was a piece that he missed from
Mhm.
when he was doing group, and I'm like, well, fuck, I love the readings. I think it'd be a great thing. And at the time, we were looking probably for a time filler. I don't
Yeah.
know that we were going to run out of stories necessarily, but it's nice to have something structured to talk about. Plus, then people started, and people still do, like you just did,
Mhm.
to comment on the fact that we do the reading. And then we figured out really, really quickly that we needed to cut people the fuck off when it came to their stories, because
Mhm.
we did not. It's the thing that we hate the most is
Yeah.
not hate, dislike the most is
Mhm.
these long drawn out, fucking just. We get it. You did all these bad things. We've
Yeah.
all done it to some degree. What do you do now?
Right.
Mhm.
And give us the
Yeah.
highlights. As Mike always says, he uses the word qualify because that's what we were taught. Show people that you belong here, but we don't need to hear when I was this, I did that, and then when I did this, and you're like, oh my god, stop, just fucking stop.
Mhm.
And then the ending. Those are our three structures. And the fact that we take a break in the middle. Other than that, it's fun. I mean, half the time we have, I don't know. There's times when I think we have nothing to talk about,
Mhm.
and we go the entire episode, talking about one thing that was unplanned, or
Mhm.
other times I go through it, I pick these little things off my list, and I get to the end, and I've got fucking 12 things that we touched on, and we talked to about like for 4 minutes each. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's just, I
Yeah.
don't know. You never know. But the kindest thing that I think anyone ever said, and this was early on, we got a message from somebody, I think in the first 6 months, Mike. Do you remember
Mhm.
when somebody said it was like listening in on somebody having a personal conversation, like a
Right.
fly in the wall type of
Yeah.
thing? And being able to listen in to just somebody having a conversation about life and sobriety, whatever. I thought that was the nicest thing that anyone ever could have said, because we didn't know what we were doing at the time or what we wanted to do, but
Do we know
when
now?
somebody when somebody said that, we're like, yeah, we'd like it to be something like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
But I mean, you
let's
can't
do that.
but you can't plan that. That was the beautiful part of it. So
Right. It's very organic.
well, and that's the thing too, is that I don't know. There's certain things that I'm a very planned type of person in my normal life. We do certain things. Our sober lives are planned,
Hmm.
but this is a release for us. It's an opportunity to begin with. Well, I might say, shoot our wad into the wind and see what
Yes.
happens. And it really was that way. Just us getting
Yeah.
together and being able to, because we weren't. we didn't really grow apart, but we lived apart for a number of years. We didn't
Right.
see each other that much. It was just a great opportunity to shoot the shit. And then we're like, oh, we can tell fucking stories again, because even though we've heard them all, these other people haven't. But yeah, it's just it's nice to hear that when it resonates with somebody. That's the cool part. As egotistical as I think I can be, I like the fact that maybe it helps somebody, and that's that warm and fuzzy feeling,
Well, and the thing is too is that the story of how you two came together
Mm-hmm.
and what is it, 14 years, 15 years
15,
later?
15. Yeah.
You you know, it's like you two would never have met in any other
Oh, hell
situation.
no.
Right?
He always says he
But-
would have beat me up and robbed me.
Well, yeah, I would have taken a shit and booked. Yeah.
But the
But-
joke would have
but-
been on you because I didn't have any money.
Right.
so
You didn't have anything, but whatever you had, I still would have taken it.
I know.
So I like that. I thought that was very touching that you two took your experience and just kept it going. I mean,
Mhm.
you don't hear about that a lot.
Right.
So I like that part of it, and how you guys still get together, whether
Right.
whether it's with family or
Mhm.
and all that. And to me, that's kind of like a testament to, the program working.
Right.
So my whole recovery program is very woman centric. Like I only go to women's meetings.
Mhm.
And I only socialize with women. So you guys are the only dash of testosterone on this
Well.
sober salad that I.
Hi there.
No, I started out going to mixed meetings, and I just, for a variety of reasons,
Sure.
the longer you're in the program and you're doing self-examination,
Mhm.
you realize, like for me, pretty much with one exception, every relationship I was ever in, or anyone even my best girlfriend growing up, everybody was an addict.
Right.
And I remember being at a mixed meeting, and there's this guy there, and right away I'm thinking And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, look at you. Look at you. Can you just walk away from the butterfly with the broken wing?
Ah.
Just so that's kind of why I, just started going to women's meetings. So I'm like, I need to focus on my program.
Right. I mean,
I-
certainly we were, when we started off, we were encouraged. It was like, go to men's meetings.
Right.
You don't need any of that nonsense. You don't need to lose your focus. And clearly we will. So, right. Yeah, absolutely. It's encouraged to do that. I mean, my home group is an open meeting now, and I like that. But yeah, I mean, my recovery, foundation, I can't say that because there are a lot of women, but, yeah, I mean, the hardcore ones, the real hardcore ones, if I'm in some kind of deep shit, whatever, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm going to a guy. Absolutely.
Right. Well, and that's where our home group, but we haven't been the last couple of times I've been back. Well, when did we go to, who do you know? That was
God, that was probably like a year ago, right?
when was I there? Did we go there in October? I don't remember. Maybe it
we
was a
may
year
have.
ago.
Yeah.
Because I just remember sitting there shooting the shit with Joe, and it was after I started traveling.
Right.
So it would have been within the last 12 months. But that's just a good, solid men's meeting, and it's you want to talk about the sit down and shut up type of guys, not mean. And we
Mm-mm.
talk about them all the time. These old school guys, and to this day, you walk in there, and these guys are still there.
Mhm.
And it's the same structure. It's just straight to the point. They don't fuck around with anything.
Uh-huh.
You go there and you get your meeting and you get out, and it's great. Now, like Mike's home group, in my opinion, with Puritas is I know it's a mixed meeting. I've been there plenty of times. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel. It's not like a Gordon Square. It's certainly not like
Right.
whatever the Clifton was
West
years
Clifton,
ago.
right?
Yeah, there you go. Which is just a fucking
that party.
Yeah, that was just crazy. But I mean, Puritas, which is Mike's home group, is very, very nice, very structured. Gordon Square is fine, but it's a little bit.
Mhm.
But if you want a good solid meeting, yeah, I mean, men's meetings and women's meetings, and they always said that, stick with the women, stick with the men, get your recovery from that. There's nothing, our group, like you just said, Mike, we have a lot of, we have a ton of female friends,
Mhm.
and a lot of them are sober.
Right.
And a lot of them, we're not romantically involved with any of these people. They're just good,
No.
solid, sober people.
Right.
Men and women that we have in the Cleveland area. And I guess I don't think about it one way or the other, like, oh, I'm hanging around a lot of chicks today, or whatever the case is.
Right.
Because they've been around for so goddamn long, and they're just part of our deal. But early on, it just I didn't need to be at these mixed meetings all the time. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and maybe if I had found one that was really solid, maybe I would have gone back. But I think I kind of picked all the wrong ones. Like,
Right.
I remember going to this one meeting, and it was at night, and it was in like a downtown area, and so I went with another woman. We'd go together, but sometimes we were the only two women there, and it just seemed like these guys, like, the meeting was supposed to be an hour, but I think they had a contest, like how fast they could get the meeting over with. So, like, I can remember one time talking, and the guy like started whacking the table with the palm of his hand, like, okay, thanks a lot. I was like, what a dick,
Yeah.
Like, if you have rules about shares, say them at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, because
Right.
otherwise, but you just have to find what works. And I'm very involved in the meetings I go to, and a lot of times we do have, the group conscience where we talk about how things are running and complaints people have and this and that. And it's like, hey, you know what? We're here for one thing and one thing only. And when we start getting involved in all this bureaucracy and politics and minutia, we're just like everybody else out there. Like, we need to get back and keep it simple.
Yeah. Singleness of purpose.
Right. So I think it's just an easy thing for anybody to slip into over time. Personalities start taking over. And so, but yeah, I mean, so podcasts and meetings and readings and my hiking, I still do my solo walks. And then at least once a year, I do a solo camping.
Oh, really?
Cool.
I started doing that first year of, what year was that? Well, I forget. Let's say it was within the first couple years I started doing it. So now every year it's a challenge to go spend a weekend alone camping.
Nice.
So is it just like out in the middle of nowhere? Do you go to a campground?
No. I used to do that, Mike, because like I said, my family had, a place up in northern Michigan.
Right.
And I've backpacked in the Rockies, things like that, But no. This isn't about me going on an outward bound. I usually just go to state parks. But it's more about me just being alone for a weekend, and it's very primitive camping. I gotta make fires, cook my food. I sleep in a tent. I keep it simple, and then I spend all my time walking or just really connecting. It's kind of like an annual reset. I do it around my birthday, so it's in the fall. And it's just been great. I can't wait this year, because every year I get more stuff, I've got it all. You know what I mean?
Yes.
More cool, interesting little tools and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. How much longer am I going to be able to do this? I mean, hopefully another 10 years, but there's going to come a point where I probably won't be able to do it.
It's probably not going to be a good idea. Right.
I'm in my tent and I can't get up.
Right.
Well, and honestly, when some of these areas that I've been in, so in the North Carolina, that area that I was in, the Appalachian Trail runs all the way through there. Where I'm going to go in Arkansas, and I can't remember, maybe is that still? I don't know, whatever. There's this long distance, forever trail that runs through where I'm going to be for the next couple of weeks. And I was looking at trails when I went down there the first time, and from this to this, it's 11 miles. And if you're on the full of 31, I'm like, who the fuck hikes 31 miles? Then I look into it. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. It's like there's trails that go in a loop, and you can go see some shit. Hey, that's pretty. Woo, that sort of thing. And then there's these other trails that are almost like these are like the expressway trails. They're the ones that they're still, you see some cool shit, but they go for fucking miles and states and all this different
Yeah.
shit. And I thought about it and I'm like, God, that'd be, if I ever wanted to take the time, would I be able to do that? Take a couple of weeks and just go from here to here type of thing. But then I thought about, like, that's a lot of walk. I'm like, I think I could work that. I could space it out. I don't have to walk a certain distance. But then I'm like, God, I got to carry a lot of shit. And I'm like, ooh, my back. I think
Yeah.
about that. Then I'm like, God, I got to sleep in a tent. I can't take a goddamn air mattress. I'm like, I heard getting off of a comfortable bed sometimes. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. I think it'd be fun though. But I mean, I would really have to psych myself up to do it and be able to have an out where I'm like, okay, if halfway through I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here, I'd be able to do it,
Yeah, I did the out. It was like out just outside of Yellowstone. I
Okay.
did a backpacking up into the mountains in like grizzly bear country.
Right.
That was something else. It was on my bucket list. I wanted to do it. I was considerably younger when I did it, and it was a lot of work. You got to filter your water. You got to hang all your stuff in a tree, and you can't bring anything into your tent. You got to, change all your clothes so they don't smell like anything, and it's just a lot.
Right.
It's like not very relaxing. And then, of course, the whole entire time I'm thinking, like, is that sound a grizzly bear outside of my tent? Well, I woke up one morning and I felt the ground vibrating.
Oh, shit.
I know. And I heard like this huffing sound. And I really thought it was a bear. Well, somebody tethered their horse to a tree near my tent. Because it was a trail, right? And,
Right.
and I was just like, oh, thank God it's a horse. And I'm like, wait a minute. Who has a horse? Like where's the person?
Right.
That this horse belongs to, But anyway, it was very cool. I'm glad I did it. And I did a lot of that kind of stuff when I was younger because my dad was very much into he was an outdoorsman. So we were always camping or, we traveled all over the place by car and explored, my dad was not a theme park person. We never went, we'd go to national parks or off the beaten path kind of odd little places, but never like Wally World or anything,
Right. We did a lot of camping when we were younger. My dad took a bus. He bought an old baby blue bus and tore it out. We made a camper out of it. We did a lot of that, and even camped when after my parents split. When we moved to Wisconsin, we were still camping with our mom and my sister, and we just got out of it over time. But I mean, we did a lot of camping. Did you ever do any of that stuff, Mike, or no?
I mean, a little bit here and there. I was in scouts for a minute or two,
sure.
but
Okay.
yeah. But no, I mean, well, and when I was living in Michigan, we moved out after we left Detroit when I was like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. Yeah, we moved out to Highland, which was not built up at the time. So yeah, I mean, it was all woods and shit. So I mean, that's where I spent my time. Was, running around out in there, swimming in White Lake.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, but no, not anymore. I mean, hell, the opposite of what you guys are talking about is happening in Pennsylvania this weekend. Cook's Forest is this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So what?
Cook's Forest. It's a huge AA camping jamboree thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it's twice a year. It's in the spring and in the fall, and it's
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Cook's Forest is the state park, I guess it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like literally probably 5,000 drunks
well, I don't know.
and junkies out in the woods.
Well, that's the thing with me, though, is that I'm not an antisocial person, but when I am doing my forest stuff, I don't like a lot of crowds.
Right.
That kind of defeats the whole purpose,
Right. I mean, and apparently it's a great fun. I've never been. That's why I pay my mortgage, so I don't have to lay in the dirt anymore. Right. But no, I mean, there's cabins there and there's hotels in the area. And I mean, people do varying degrees of camping, quote unquote. There's my air quotes for this episode. Camping. Right. But yeah, it's, a bunch of people I know are going out there this weekend, and it's like Friday through Sunday, and they have big meetings and, prayer circles and blah, blah, blah. Supposedly it's great. Maybe one of these days if I can get a cabin and not have to share it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, people have been talking about that shit when we were, I mean, from the time we got sober. And I
Yeah.
remember people saying, oh, you guys ought to come or you ought to, I'm like,
Right.
again, maybe it would. I mean, it's just like when we did the whole thing with Marup. I mean,
Right.
we went because obviously we got asked to speak there, but it was enjoyable. I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever go back to that. I wouldn't, clearly haven't made a habit of doing it, twice a year since then or anything
Right.
like that.
I
But
think it's 3 times a year.
oh, is it for the one that they do? Yeah,
Yeah.
I know they're everywhere. Well, shit, Gary talked about them.
Right.
He goes to at least 2, if not 3 a year. I think I know 2 for sure. He goes to. I know they're all over the place, but yeah, it's funny. I don't know. I was listening to somebody or talking to somebody the other day. I can't remember who it was. It was, kind of talking about loneliness and stuff like that. That's a certain time and like, oh man, loneliness is a bitch and this and that. And I'm like. Is it though? I mean, but here's the thing, and I qualify that only with the fact that even though I mean I work remote when I travel, obviously I'm by myself, but I don't know the beauty of this, kind of this whole program thing is at any point if I do feel here's my air quotes lonely,
Right.
I can find a meeting, I can go out and find people. Sometimes just going to one of these hiking trails, I'm like, fuck, there's too many goddamn people here. Just leave me alone. I want to just be, kind of like what you were just talking about, Shirley. But other times it's just like, it's okay. It's okay being around people, seeing some other, some other souls out in this area, whatever the case is. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gotten that way. Maybe just sobriety. We've talked about it, Mike. Being comfortable in our own skin, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
I do like being around people. I miss human interaction, but I know it's not like I'm not hindered from it. I choose to do things sometimes, but I know I can choose to do it. I could get with somebody if I wanted. I could go spend time with people.
Right.
Yeah, I like to have that balance. My job that I have is I deal with people all day long. It's very high pressure. And so my favorite part of the day is coming home to quiet. I mean, no, I listen to music and all that, but it's just getting away from all that. I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want to be doing anything.
Yeah.
Except what I want to do.
Right.
But yeah, like the idea of going out and partying or going to the bar or anything now is just like, yeah, like last week I had to go to a work event and 5 minutes in, the drinks are open and everybody's drinking and I put in my hour and I left.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just like, I am so glad honestly, like there are times. Oh, yeah. So last summer I was at a work event and it was like in the heat of summer, it was outside and I had just taken my youngest off to college, just dropped her off at her dorm and was heading back and then stopped off to this work event. And I probably was a little dehydrated. I don't know. But after I put in my time, one of my coworkers is like, do you want me to call you an Uber? I said, what? And he goes, do you need an Uber? I said, no, why? And he goes, you seem a little overserved. I started laughing so hard. I'm like, dude, I go, you can give me a breathalyzer right now. I go, I do not have a drop of alcohol in my body. He's like, really? And I was like, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult.
Right.
But,
yeah. Well, I'm all fucked up on my own. Thank you.
No, I just think that, I was laughing all the way home and I thought, you know what? I had a really good time.
Yeah.
I didn't need to drink. And people still thought I was drunk. Like, what the hell? It just cracked me up. I was like, okay, so now I've gotten to the point where I can pretty much go to just about any event and be okay,
Yeah.
But I will not say it's easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't easy getting to that. Let me just say, that's what I meant. It wasn't easy getting to that place,
Right.
Right.
I can remember the first time that I think it was my mom's birthday or something. We were like in a bar restaurant, and my seat was facing the bar, so I'm literally just sitting there staring at all the the light glinting off those smooth, pretty little bottles of all their different shades of amber. I was pissed,
Mm.
you know. But I'm not that way anymore. You know, I could
Right.
tell you there's 12 bottles of alcohol in my office kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
There's 12. I know.
Of
I know
course.
the inventory.
Of course you do. Why
Well, you know,
wouldn't you?
in the thing of it is when you talk about a long time getting to that point, it was and I was just trying to think back, Mike. It was probably in the last 5 years that I got comfortable being where
Mm-hmm.
I don't care anymore being out
Right.
at an event like that.
Right.
Well, you and I, wait, what year did we go to Lita for? 2016, 16, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Does
Yeah.
that sound right? Okay.
Sounds about right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, so that was what, nine years ago. But it was
Mm-hmm.
I would have never gone to that with anyone but him under no circumstance, and it was really weird, because I'd been to plenty of those type of events. It seemed like Summerfest, which was a big drinking event. All this, everything was like that,
Right.
and we had to go up to the, to the beer tent table,
Mm-hmm.
to get water or soda or whatever it was,
Right.
which was weird. A lot of people drinking around us, but when that was the first time I noticed too that because Mike's like, here, we're going up here, and we're like, I mean, within spitting distance of Lita Ford, which is great. In these, remember those chicks in front of us who just dance and do whatever, and then she's like, I gotta pee, and she'd go come back with a drink, and like, I not even 15 minutes later, 20 minutes, I gotta pee, go back again, and this and that.
Yeah.
And then the first big concert I went to was Foo Fighters in 2000. That would have been July 21. So obviously after the pandemic. And the same thing, I stood there for 2.5 hours, didn't walk out, didn't have to go to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and was standing way at the back up on top of this amphitheater type of outdoor stadium, and just noticed that there was a constant stream of people going back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
bathroom beer, bathroom
Mm-hmm.
beer, bathroom wine. And I'm like, God, like Mike always says, enjoy the freedom,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
I was not uncomfortable. But the same thing, like you just said, 12 bottles or whatever. I notice all the liquor stores, any place I go. I notice when I walk in to a thing, it's like my eyes will catch a liquor, into a store. I'll catch a liquor
Mhm.
section in a grocery store. I notice when people are buying what they're buying. It just I do this inventory in my head. I was at a Get-Go years ago, Mike. Remember that we were going to a meeting, and
Yeah.
I think I stopped for coffee, and this guy had a 12-pack. He grabbed a pack of cigarettes and something, 12-pack of beer. And in my head, literally, I'm like, well, that's a decent start.
Yeah.
12-pack and a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, that ain't going to get me through the night,
Mm-mm.
I mean, I was sober at the time, but that thought pattern was there. It's a weirdness and an uncomfortableness, but yeah, once you kind of break through it, it's, enjoy the freedom, I guess, is the biggest thing that I
Yeah.
love when Mike said that to me the one time.
Oh yeah. I went to I think it was 2 years ago. I went to a concert by myself, and I've never done that before, drunk or ever.
Mhm. Right.
But I wanted to go see Jack White because I'm a fan,
Cool.
and I missed his first show at the Masonic. So the second show came out in Flint, and I just jumped right on it, and I got my tickets right away. But I couldn't get two tickets together, so I decided, fuck it, I'll just go myself
Mhm.
to Flint to go see
Mhm.
Jack White.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was my first time going to a concert, stone cold sober. I had such a good time.
Right.
Mhm.
I was like on a natural high. Like you guys said, like as the evening wore on, I noticed the floor was getting stickier and stickier with all the drinks getting kicked over. The lady, the couple next to me, the woman kept falling into me, and her husband kept pulling her back. Come on, honey, stand up straight, And I just enjoyed every moment of that concert. And when I went in line and got my water, some people were giving me shit about it, and I was just like, whatever,
Mhm.
People were giving
good
you
luck.
shit about getting water.
Yeah, because I said something like, I'll have 2 100 proof H2Os,
Mm.
just to be funny.
Right.
And the guy knew the guy who was selling knew, but the people
Sure.
behind me were like, what? Come on, live a little, And I
Right.
was just like, you know what? Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll be feeling fine. I don't know
Mhm.
about you, or whatever. But
Right.
But it was like it was my sponsor at the time was saying, I don't think you should do this,
Mm.
Shirley. I really don't think you should. And then she's like, call me. Keep your phone handy. Well, little did she know back then, Jack White made you put your phone into a locked case,
Right.
right? You couldn't use your phones at his concerts. But I was totally fine, and I was so glad I did that.
Mhm.
So that kind of gave me a little more courage to do other things.
Yeah.
Like there is life after
Absolutely.
partying. And honestly, today at 5 years and some change, I can say that I don't want to say I've never been happier, but in kind of in a way, I've never been happier.
Mhm.
I've have contentment and peace,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is priceless.
Absolutely. I ain't
Can't
giving
buy
this
that
shit
at
up
a
for
store.
nothing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not giving that up for 20 minutes of feeling good.
Right. Well, like you just
Yeah.
said too, 2 in the morning and feeling fine and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
it's not even as much as just okay, I know I can drive myself home and whatever. And we talked about it before. I mean, we can go anywhere, anytime, and do whatever the hell we want,
Mhm.
and we don't have to worry about. We could still get in a car, And I've had, again, my son's called me for a ride. I doing this whole traveling thing. I get up at fucking 1 in the morning and I'm leaving at 3 in the morning from someplace. Man, I'd never be able to do that if I was drinking. I would just stay
Right.
up all night and I'd be drunk still. I wouldn't be able to do this or do my job. I wouldn't be alive. We know that. But
Mhm.
I mean, just having that freedom and sort of stuff. So quick question with the job stuff, Shirley. So do you think, I mean, you don't work remote now. You actually still go into work?
Oh yeah, I love it. I don't want to. I mean, I have had work from home jobs, and they
Right.
served me when my children were young. But I really do thrive on having a routine. I like getting up in the morning. I like
Right.
going into the office. I like what I do. I work in real estate closing, so I'm dealing with lots of different people all
Oh
day
yeah, yeah.
long,
Right.
and um, lots of challenges. And we're in our busy season right now, so like from as soon as the weather gets warm until the weather gets
It
shitty,
doesn't. Right.
we're busy, 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 busy. We only have like maybe December, January, February, a little bit into March that we're slow. But right now we're just slammed.
Well, and the reason
So,
I asked you that, it was just kind of curious of, do you think you would be able to, would that, because you said, once you were working remote before the stay at home thing and doing this, and then you found that, do you think you
oh,
would be able, even if you, let's say, I know you like doing, actually going to work, but do you think you would have the discipline now, or do you feel that that would be a different story if you had to do that now? Would you be able to do the difference?
I don't know. I mean, I think because I live in a small space.
I think your microphone just went out.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
you unplugged something.
uh-oh.
There. Were we back?
Am I back?
You're
Yeah, now
back.
you are. Yeah, careful. Who was it? Tom Farley just pulled
Mhm.
out his microphone and shut us all down a few episodes ago. So
Is everything good?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're back now.
I guess I'm not used to having this thing in my head. I think no, there are sometimes when I do have to work from home, like let's say the power's out at the office or whatever, my car's in the shop,
Right.
and it's okay for a day or two. But I just think for my mental health, especially, I don't live in a house like I used to, where I would
Right.
have like a dedicated place to work or I could go sit outside on the patio or whatever. No, I mean, I live in a small space. So to me, it would feel like being in prison.
Hmm.
Right. Right. No, and I
Like I
and I
should
get
just put
that.
on my orange jumpsuit every morning,
Hmm.
Well, and the other reason I asked this is when my ex-wife and I were together, and I worked remote. I mean, like back in the early 2000s. I mean, when before it was even like a common thing, and I was drinking at the time, and it was a bad setup. I mean, at the time I thought it was fucking great, but I mean, I know better. And that's why I say there's no way that I could do this now to have this type of isolation and freedom if I was still drinking. It never worked, but it never bothered me when I started doing it again. And especially when, or even when, because I mean, to begin with, I was obviously at our sister's, and it's not like people weren't around, obviously later on during the day and stuff like that. I had the house to myself during the day, but it's, I like it because it allows me to obviously do what I'm doing, but it never bothered me from, again, it's the discipline and the difference in who I am. I've never, it's not a problem for me doing it. And I despised going into the office. I think I just got to that point where I'm like, fuck, man, I'm just done with this. I never want to go into an office again if I don't have to, but
Yeah, I get into it with certain people in my life about this all the time. Some people would just want everyone to work from home, and I'm like, well, I guess it depends on what your work is. I
right.
used to be a writer and an editor, and that can be done from home.
Mhm.
And I can work at 3 o'clock in the morning if I want to doing that job, but
Right.
the job I do has to be done during business hours,
Oh, and you're in front of people. So if you work
Yeah.
theoretically remotely, you'd have to either meet people places or go to their homes or whatever the case is. So you'd still have
You
to
know
be
what?
someplace,
Yeah,
right?
it was a hot mess during the pandemic because the people were like closing in garages on the hoods of cars, passing papers through windows.
Right.
It was just all so ridiculous. Um, but the fallout of that is a lot of people in our office never came back.
Right.
They don't want to.
Right.
And but it's a personal choice. And for me, um, being at this point in my life an empty nester and all that I do like having that interaction during the day, and I do like being able to get away from it when I come home, and I
Yeah.
don't like mixing my space.
Right. No,
My
and
home is my
that makes sense.
refuge.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense, and it is funny though that the shit there was like Johnson Controls in Milwaukee. They had this huge building downtown, which our mom worked for Johnson Controls for a
Mhm.
number of years, and they had this building downtown for probably every bit of 20 years, if not 25. And during the pandemic, they just so many people went. They moved the remaining people that were still going to come into the office. They moved to a different office, and they gave up the building. And there was a lot of there was a few other bigger companies in the Milwaukee area that did that. I know all over the place. They realized that why do we have all this office space? But again, to your point, there's the company I work for. My understanding is that people, if I lived in the Chicagoland area, I could. If I wanted to, I could go into the office and work. I wouldn't have to be remote, but they just assume that everyone wants to. But if I wanted to, I could go into the office, but I have no desire to, and I'm not in Chicago. But yeah, it is, and like you say, I mean, I get it. It is. It's a separation of space. And Mike, for you to work remote, you'd have to live in a truck full time. So
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not doing that. Or drive my truck in my living room, which wouldn't work either. So, right.
well, you know what? I don't know. You get the right, contractor and stuff like that. You just pull
Sure.
right up, and it's a big house. It could fit a truck if it was
Well,
set up
yeah.
right.
Right.
Can you imagine just pull into your front yard, your house, a big fucking mouth opens up, and you just drive into your fucking living room?
Like the Bat Cave.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Hmm.
he's seriously though. Speaking of that though, we have to at some point we got to run video or pictures to do something in your house. We have to do a
Mhm.
tour for people. That might be the only time we do a video, like a full video. It's just you can walk through and you can explain everything in your house. It's which I know you'll love. So, but
Yeah,
that's what'll
sure.
make it even more fun. Even though you don't like talking to people like that, I think that I do think you'd have fun doing it. I
I
think.
would. Sure.
Yeah, his house is a museum, right? Because sing the
Right.
song, Mike.
People come to see him. Really is a scream.
Oh, it's like the Addams family. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Creepy and I'm kooky.
Yeah. And it's not,
Altogether ooky.
Yes, I
and
am.
it's not even like the Adams family. It is exactly the Adams family.
Oh my God.
So quick question though. And I mean this to be personal, but you had talked about the therapy thing, and
Yeah.
we have people talk. We've talked to people. I see it on social media and stuff like that. So I know there's certain individuals that do, maybe do a church thing. People do a 12-step thing. People also do a therapy thing. With the exception of that time that you were dealing with that one therapist, have you found any, I don't even want to say refuge, any benefit from a therapy standpoint, from a
I
recovery standpoint?
Well, I'm somebody that's been in and out of therapy all my life, so I don't remember the first time I went, but I know I was young, and because there's a lot of like my family has a lot of there was a lot of dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was an. I don't think I mentioned that my dad was. I mentioned my dad was an alcoholic and he died at 58.
Oh, no.
So yeah, so we grew up in that kind of a household, right?
Right.
And my dad died young ish, and there was just a lot surrounding that. I didn't really get into that part of the story.
Right.
So we had gone to family therapy for a while, and then I went on to individual therapy, and off and on for years. And now I'm just kind of at the point like that last one I went to, my doctor sent me there.
Right. Well, you were looking for
And
Xanax.
I know, right? And
That's the best.
honestly, I don't even remember her name. I didn't really like her. She was very mean.
Mm-hmm. She
You
would give you
know.
Xanax.
She wouldn't give me Xanax,
Yeah,
and
so fuck her.
she was not taking any of my crap. She was
Mhm.
co-signing my BS.
Right.
She told me what I needed to hear, and I'm always
Yeah.
be appreciative of that. But the pandemic hit, she shut down. They were talking about maybe an IOP for me, intensive outpatient,
Right.
but that never happened. And no, I haven't, because I feel like with all the various tools of my recovery right now,
Mhm.
and I have like hour-long sessions every week with my sponsor.
Sure.
Right.
And it's interesting, real quick. I met this woman a couple years ago, and we just clicked. And then when my former sponsor moved, she relocated out of state, and I was sponsorless.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her, and she was like, "I thought you'd never ask." Like it was like we were such a good fit for each other.
Right.
Not to say that she's my therapy, but I think right out of the gate, 9 times out of 10, when I tell her about something, she knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's
Right.
not like where you're saying something to someone and they're like
Yeah.
going, okay.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of AA is, it's one drunk helping another. We understand each other like other people can't. Yeah, some guy or woman or whatever that, read something in a book 20 years ago can't fucking relate to me. I don't expect them to, but I walk into a church basement and say 3
Yeah.
words and they go, "Oh yeah, I've been there."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not open to it. I just feel kind of like, to me, a good long walk on a beautiful day in the woods
Yeah.
has
Right.
so much therapeutic value
Yeah, absolutely.
if you allow it to.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
and the only reason I ask, I don't make a habit of walking around people and be like, "Hey, you in therapy?" But you had mentioned that, and then
Yeah.
that part of the story stopped, and I didn't know there was more to it.
Oh,
And and the thing of it is it intrigues me only in the sense that I'm curious where people get their help, and it's eye opening to me. Not that here's the way that I look at it. This is another thing I was talking about with a friend of mine the other day. And what I told her was, I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like, at this point in my life, in this point in this journey, I mean, I've done a ton of work on myself with other people. Thankfully, had good people and we have had good people walk us through this thing, and I have my shit in order, in an order that's not killing me, and in an order that's not harming other people at the moment, And do I think that there's some sort of in my past, probably the trauma, quote unquote, and all these different things, all the things that everyone talks about. But you know what? It's not that I'm afraid of it, but I don't need to. Everything's good for me right now. And
Right.
all these things are taken care of. I've made my amends. I've made my peace with all these fucking people. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but all these people in my life, you know what I mean? People that I feel have harmed me. I've figured out my part, and all the things that we talk about. I don't need a therapist trying to pick apart and say, let's dig all the way back and let's pick at that wound and let's open her back up. No, I don't want to do that. But if I was really messed up in the head, first thing I would do, I'd go to the, this guy who was sitting over there on the other end of the microphone.
Hi
I
there.
mean, this this podcast and Mike. I mean, those are the first two things that we talk about a lot on here. But
Yeah, you do.
I go to Mike all the time, on certain things. We talked about a lot of things deeply over the years, but because I know he's going to get it. I know I can go to our sister with stuff, but only he's going to get certain things that I'm talking about, and I
Right.
don't need to. I don't need to, spend money to go, like Mike just said, somebody that read something in a book, 18 years ago or whatever it was, or even somebody that's in the program and stuff like that. Why do I get to go pay that person
Yeah.
when I get somebody for free over here? And he's
Yeah.
got somebody for free over here.
Exactly.
I've got thousands of therapists at my fingertips on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that and my time spent in my Buddhist training, one of the things they teach in the particular sect of Buddhism that I was studying is that you are your own savior.
Absolutely.
And I always liked that.
Yeah, right.
You are in this moment. This is the only moment that you have. The moment behind you is gone. The moment ahead of you is unknown. You have this moment. What are you doing with it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting,
how are you?
I'm sitting here in my house and everything's fine. Yeah. Why am I going to stir shit up? There's plenty of shit to stir, but why am I going to do that? That's insane.
So I had a meditation practice that I don't do like I used to, but it was very beneficial to me at the time because it made me realize where my mind went. When it's like you let a dog out without a fence. Where does it go? It goes right to the shit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's kind of like the more you can recognize that, and I've just even recognized that just through everything that I do. Especially when I'm upset. Like this last couple of weeks have been kind of crazy. I got no sleep last night because we had like this supposedly these horrid storm system moving through. The sirens are going off. The alerts were going off all night. Nobody got a damn bit of sleep. So, and then nothing happened. Apparently, if you lived east of Lansing, nothing happened. But so it made me like in a really cranky mood all day, and everything gets under your skin, and it's like I'm at the crossroads here. I can be a jerk, or I can just be quiet. I don't have to. No one cares that you didn't get any sleep.
Exactly.
Just be nice.
Yeah. You come on here and talk to your friends.
Well, I did have some anxiety too, about doing this.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I did, because
really?
I'm not really well, I've never been on a podcast before, I'll tell you that. But I don't even I've never even done an open talk, So
yeah. Well, see, wasn't too bad, was it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it seem like we've been talking for an hour and a half?
No, so I guess that's good, right?
That is a good thing. That is, we put you in a trance now for the last hour and a half. We've had friends of ours that we've known for years that come on here and are just beyond nervous, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I don't mean you. I mean these people that we've known for years. We've had other people too that have been nervous. I'm like, it's just chill out, man. You'll be fine. Give it 5 or 10 minutes.
It's. I guess my biggest worry is that there's parts of my story that I would share in a closed meeting, but that I don't want to share on a podcast. That who knows who will be listening to it.
Right. Understood.
It could get in the wrong hands. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
I want to be respectful. There's parts of my story that involve other people.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to, tell their story.
Yeah,
so
right.
there's parts I can't say out loud in an open forum.
Trust us. I mean, we're open and honest on this thing, but we don't tell everything.
Right.
Right. And just so everyone knows, we did the first editing ever was done to Shirley told us a really juicy story, which we had to cut out.
He's lying.
Yeah, that's a lie. She didn't say anything. Nothing.
All right,
everything she said was on here, so it's all good. Just messing with you.
Back to Detroit, Mike. I've got 2 words for you. Butthole Surfers.
Yeah, good band.
So I went to see them in '85 at Trax.
Okay.
Do you know where Trax is at?
It was after my time. I was in California in
So
'85, but yes, I'm
it
aware of it.
was yeah, it was like this shithole bar on
Yeah.
Gratiot.
hmm
I had never heard of them, and my brother kept telling me about them, and I'm like, "That's not a real band." And he's like, "Yeah," and he's pointing to the paper, and he's
Mhm.
like, "They're at Trax this weekend."
Mhm.
So I went, and I only bring this up because I was like, when I was writing out my story, I was thinking like, "Oh, remember that time you went to see the Butthole Surfers at Trax? What?" I mean, here I was. How old was I? I don't know. I was young, and I was just this little slip of a girl.
hmm
And I go to this bar, and I had to leave. I didn't even finish the show because I was, like everybody was pushing and shoving, and things were being thrown in every
Yeah.
direction. There was broken glass all over the floor.
hmm
I had to drop down on my hands and knees and crawl
Mm.
out of that place. But so I looked it up online. I'm like, I typed in Butthole Surfers Detroit 1985, and this whole documentary came up.
Mm.
Look it up on YouTube.
All right.
Apparently, that's the show I was at. I had no idea.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Bill, are you familiar with this band?
Oh yeah, I know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about before they were famous, before they
Right.
were at Lollapalooza, before
Oh
they
yeah.
had
No, I
their
would.
one.
Yeah, not back in that. Not back
You
in
should
those
check
days.
it out sometime.
Yeah.
I don't even know what words to use to describe it. It's just,
Fun.
well, I mean, I admit I've been watching some of the videos because it's almost like a train wreck. You can't stop looking,
Right.
Like, oh my God. Anyway,
Mhm.
I just had to bring that up because good times.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, anything else you wanna wrap up with? Anything else you wanna either share with somebody, tell somebody, tell people out there? Anything at all?
I do want to say this because it's something I've been saying at meetings a lot lately. And I really like that younger people are recognizing their problems earlier and doing
Mhm.
something about it. I feel like, I don't know if it's social media or what, but it warms my heart.
Right.
And I always say to them, you've got your whole life ahead of you. If
Mhm.
you can nip this in the bud now versus waiting until you're an old fart and doing it, like less damage to yourself and
Yeah.
everyone around you.
Right.
But really, I just feel like there's just so many different programs and ways out there now available to people that you don't have to hide. I mean, even the fact that I'm doing this with you guys is kind of outing myself a little bit. I
Mhm.
don't necessarily, but I felt it was important to do it because I feel like, what they say are as sick as your secrets.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to stand up against this, not in a combative kind of social justice kind of way, but really, I mean, we're all being fed, a lie, like
Mhm.
a lifestyle lie,
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Just I mean, that's the whole point is showing people that there's a different way to live.
Right.
You don't have to be that slave. You don't have to. Yeah. You can have a better, happier life. You don't have to live that way anymore. Heard that somewhere before.
Right. And I'm so glad that my kids seem to be okay. That
Mhm.
was always
Right.
my fear,
Sure.
is that, especially my older daughter, because her dad and I are both,
Mhm.
recovering,
Right.
and she seems smart enough to not go down that road, or if that
Mhm.
she did have a discovery of some sort, she
Mhm.
took care of it before it got bad.
Right.
Right.
And if it happens in the future, she knows where to go. We can be examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's the other comforting thing is I know that same deal. I mean, my kids are in good shape. I mean, Mike, your daughter, I think is in decent shape, and just a matter of, I mean, worst case scenario, gosh forbid, we've got family and friends and children that, if nothing else, they've seen what we do, and they met a lot of our friends. They see what our friends are doing too.
Right.
So, it's it's good, and I mean, honestly, thank you for obviously coming on here. We didn't. I didn't know that you were anxiety ridden over it, but it makes me laugh. But I'm glad you pushed through that.
Well, you did all that promotion. I'm like, holy crap! Am I going to have to juggle and sing and?
No, not at all.
Well,
It's just
you've heard this podcast before. This is all it is, man. Just
Yeah, I know.
drunks and
I know.
junkies talking to each other.
I know.
But yeah, seriously, we do appreciate it. But we know what time it is now, right, Mike?
Uh
Uh-oh.
oh. Pumpkin time.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Thank you so much, Shirley, or whatever the fuck your name is, for coming on here.
You're welcome.
And being a wonderful guest. We had a great time with you tonight. And as always, be good to each other out there. Be kind to each other. Go out there and do something nice for somebody else this week. And don't tell anybody you did it. Now, from the bottom of my heart, to the depths of my soul, from the beginning of time till the ends of the earth, always and eternally, fuck you. Now it's time, kids. It's time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off till you get to a gate with a sign on it saying, "You cannot fuck off past here." Climb over that gate. Dream the impossible dream. And keep fucking off forever.
You know what? Now that little bit of echo actually sounded good in there. I'm wondering if it'll come across on the recording. It might get filtered out with whatever this thing does. But
Right.
No, that made it sound good. Like we meant to do that.
We meant to do that, Dottie.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you're not going to get away without telling us, Shirley. Which one of us did you accuse of being more immature?
You'll never get the answer to that question.
Oh, you tease.
I made no promises.
Okay.
Just
it's fine. It's fine. You know that.
You know what? Some questions are better left unanswered.
Oh,
Mystery?
man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? That's okay, because here's what we're gonna do. Everyone who actually wants her to tell us, email us. Well, we never get any emails, so this will really be the test here. Oh yeah, rarely. We don't get any emails. Nobody buys us coffee because we don't want them to. We don't want donations. We don't need people's fucking money. But we get very few comments. So when we get them, they're really cool. Kind of like with your comment about the immaturity thing.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to hear it, if we get enough emails, then she has to tell us. And I'm not going to define enough. It's just it is.
Right.
Enough.
Yeah. 2.
Yeah. If we get, I swear to God, Shirley, we get 3 fucking emails.
Oh no.
If it's 4, we get 4. That's it, man. Blow up our mailbox in 4 emails.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay.
You heard it. There it is.
Well,
No,
yeah,
she just said all right. Yep.
Honesty. Honesty's part of this program.
That's right. Program of honesty. If we get 4 emails, you have to do it.
Okie dokie.
All right.
All right.
All right, Mike. I love you, brother.
Love you too.
I know we'll talk soon.
We shall.
And Shirley, thank you again. Truly.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
It was
Not a
very
Well
cool.
fun.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye. And now it is time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over that gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.